Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a new video. By the title of this video, you guys probably already realize that I already have done this topic before, but it has been a little over 2 years since I've done that video. And I wanted to do a little bit of an update since I have more experience, more seat time, more years under my belt with my Subaru experience. And also over the past 2 years, there have been a lot more Subaru, WRX, and STI enthusiasts that have picked up these cars, or at least they're wanting to. They're becoming more and more popular, especially now that the STI is no longer being made. So a lot of people have been coming to me recently and asking this question. I figured I would go over my thoughts again, kind of reiterate what I've already said, but also add some experience to it since I have been driving this car for a couple more years since then. And also I have done so much to this car. So I just kind of wanted to go over the topic a little bit more in depth, just so I can put people's mind at ease. Now, first off, I just wanted to say thank you. It's pretty humbling and pretty crazy to me to think that people reach out to me for this specific car. You know, I don't consider myself a brand ambassador or anything like that. I don't consider myself a spokesperson by any means for the brand of Subaru, but it's pretty cool to be representing, in a way, this brand, and to actually think that people care about my opinion and want to hear what I have to say and just help them, guide them in the right directions. So it's always humbling when people always ask me those kinds of questions. I get them so often. It always shocks me. It always surprises me that people still reach out and are asking me these questions, even more so than ever. So being able to represent this brand and kind of somewhat, like I said, be a spokesperson for them is pretty awesome. It's pretty amazing to think that people, like I said, care about what I think and what I say. And ultimately, it ends up leading to them either buying or not buying their WRX or STI. So let's get into it and have a little discussion. So the question and topic that we are going to be going over in this video is, are Subarus reliable? I understand this topic can get sensitive to some people, and you know, some people have certain experiences than others, but this is just my personal experience. I just wanted to mention that before we start getting into it. This is just what I have experienced with my personal Subarus over the last decade. So let me first explain my experience. Let me explain to you the Subarus that I have owned, how long I've owned them, and just give an idea of kind of my ownership and kind of experience with Subaru. Now, my first experience was in 2013 when I picked up a 2013 WRX hatchback. I'll put a picture up on the screen for you guys so you can see it. Absolutely love that car. I actually picked it up after my E46 M3. I wanted something that was comfortable, had a little bit more room, all-wheel drive, manual, fun, and somewhat easy to maintain. Absolutely love that car. I actually still miss it to this day, but that was kind of my introduction to Subaru. That was my first experience with the brand. I owned that car for a little over 2 years. I did prematurely sell that car. I wish I hung on to it a little bit longer, but overall, I modified that car. I went to Stage 1 Plus, so I didn't go as crazy as I did with this one, but I had a Torque Performance Stage 1 Plus tune with the Cobb SF intake. I did the Turbo Smart bypass valve. I did wheel, suspension, exhaust, all the fun stuff, interior stuff as well. Overall, I did simple modifications. I didn't go too crazy with it, but in my 2 years of experience, I had absolutely zero problems, no hiccups. Absolutely ripped on that car all the time. It was a lot of fun. I drove that thing through literally a foot of snow. I'll put another picture up for you guys of me going through one of the bigger snowstorms that we had when I had that car, and it was on all seasons as well. I didn't even have winter tires on the car. It was absolutely phenomenal. Drove through tons and tons of snow with no problem. It's a very, very well-rounded car. I love that thing. And that was my first experience and kind of introduction into the brand. So quite a few years later, I actually sold the WRX. We're having our first kid, so I wanted to get out of the car world for a little bit, refocus my priorities. So I picked up a 2015 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Enjoyed that, but I needed to get out of it as soon as possible. I missed having a fun car. So I wanted to get back into something fun, four-door, all-wheel drive, manual, something easy to maintain, something that I can modify, and something that was going to keep my interest for a long extended period of time. Insert a 2017 STI, and that is what you're looking at right now. So that was my second experience with the Subaru. I bought the car brand new from my dealer. This is the exact spec that I wanted. Everything about it, I didn't sacrifice anything. This is exactly what I wanted, and I got it. And since then, you know, we have done quite a lot to this car in terms of modifications. I have 37,000 miles on the car. I understand that may not be a lot to some. This is not my daily driver. This is a fun car now. It used to be my daily. But no matter what power level I was at, no matter what type of weather I was driving through, like I said in the beginning of this ownership, I used to drive it year round. I drove it through snow. I drove it through pretty much every single thing you can think of. I had no issues, absolutely loved it. And since then, we have gone above and beyond to make this the most perfect, in my opinion, the most perfect STI that I could possibly think of. It's right now it's 413 horsepower, 358 foot-pounds of torque, 18 psi. We've done a ton of stuff. I've pretty much done everything you possibly can at this point, and it is absolutely perfect. I love this car so much, and I am 5.5 years into my ownership. Keep in mind, this is the longest car I have ever owned. That should tell you a lot. The reason why I'm mentioning that is because usually my car ownerships are 2 to 3 years. Every 2 to 3 years, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for something new. I'm tired of this car. I want to experience something new. And this car, for whatever it may be, I just can't get rid of it. It is just something that I'm absolutely in love with. Every single time I get in it, it's still an experience. It's still a lot of fun. I still love looking at it. Obviously, I still love modifying it. It's just a fantastic car, and it has never, ever, not once, left me stranded. It's never had a hiccup, nothing. It has always been reliable. I had no issues with it, and it has been my favorite car I have ever owned to date. Now on to the third Subaru. I was still owning my 2017 STI, but my wife and I were expecting our second child, and we needed something a little bit bigger. My wife didn't want to move to a full-sized SUV, so we wanted to look at something a little bit bigger than what she was driving, which was a 2015 Honda Accord. Great car, but we wanted something with a little bit more space. So naturally, we looked at the Subaru brand, and we picked up a 2018 Subaru Outback. We actually leased that car since it was an exceptional deal, and also we knew we were going to get something bigger down the line because we wanted to have more kids and grow our family and everything. So we knew it was something that we weren't going to keep forever. But the great thing about that car is about 2.5 years into the lease, we ended up picking up a 3-row SUV because we were having our third child. We needed something larger. We ended up getting a Kia Telluride, but we still had about 8 or 9 months left on the Subaru Outback lease. What we decided to do was actually purchase the Kia Telluride, and I was going to take over the Subaru Outback lease. I was going to drive it until the lease was up and then turn it in, because it just worked out in our favor to be able to do that, thankfully. So since then, this car no longer was a daily driver. So since then, this car sat in the garage and became a garage queen. I was only taking it out on nice days, and it was something that I never thought would be possible. I always wanted to have a daily driver and have something fun in the garage, and I got my wish. So I got to spend some serious time with the Outback, just one-on-one, driving it every single day, driving it through tons of snow again. I'll put a picture up in with the Subaru Outback, driving it through a bunch of snow. It was amazing. I love that car. Plenty of space. Honestly, if you're not looking for a giant SUV and you just want something a little bit bigger, I could not recommend an Outback enough. But the reason why I'm mentioning the Outback is simply because we experienced it. It was my third time buying a Subaru, and yet again, it was completely problem-free. We had no issues. We literally just did the basic stuff, oil changes, filter changes, that kind of stuff, no problems. It started up every single time, went through whatever we needed to. It was very, very accommodating. And also, a reason why I'm mentioning that is because I've experienced Subarus in all spectrums. Completely stock like the Outback, or all the way modified like my 2017 STI. I've experienced the brand in all different shapes and forms. So to me, I feel like I have a good representation of what the brand really is. So when it comes down to reliability, I'm going to go over a few things as to why I think these cars are extremely reliable. There's 2 things that I'm going to go into. Just keep in mind, the internet, forums, YouTube, social media, what have you, people go to these places to solve their problems. They're never going out just saying, hey, this is the greatest car I've ever driven in my entire life. It has no problems today. It's great. Normally, people don't do that. People go to the internet to complain. That is just what humans do for some odd reason, and people gravitate towards that. So when you see all those kinds of posts and videos and everything like that, naturally people are going to get this impression that this certain car, this certain motor, this certain anything is going to have this type of reputation. People gravitate towards negativity. That's just the way things are. People gravitate towards that. People want to hear the sad. People want to hear people screwing up. Unfortunately, that's just what it is. So the reason why I'm mentioning that is because I want people to have that in their mind when I'm going over these 2 things. And a lot of people don't realize that, and I want to make sure that people understand that the internet is a terrible place. It's a place where people like to complain, to try to solve their issues, explain their problems, and hopefully come up with a resolution. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to see those types of posts, videos, what have you, on the internet in general. First thing that I want to kind of dive into is maintenance. I know it seems like a very, very simple thing, but you will be surprised just how many people don't do the maintenance. One thing I always preach is maintenance before mods. I don't care if you want a front lip. I don't care if you want wheels. I don't care if you want anything aftermarket related. If your car is not driving properly, if your car is not up to date on the maintenance, I'm sorry, you are doing it wrong. Maintenance before mods. That is extremely important, and that is a big reason why people end up having issues with these cars. Being in the position that I am in currently, a lot of people reach out to me and explain their problems. They're looking for opinions just to see if I can help them, which I try my best. They show me videos, pictures, what have you, explain what's going on with their car. And they're like, I don't know what's going on. Can you solve this problem? 9 times out of 10, after they finish explaining everything and I ask them a few questions, I did everything right. I did maintenance and all that, and I've had no problems. And then there's always that but. So normally I just kind of wait for that moment because it's usually like, oh, but I haven't changed the spark plugs in 275,000 miles. It's always one of those things that people just forget to mention. And it usually just comes down to maintenance. It usually comes down to, buying a car, 7th hand. It's had 15 different owners and you really don't know the ownership history prior to that. You don't know the maintenance history. You don't know how well they took care of it. You don't even know if it was modified prior. So that is where people run into a lot of issues because, they're buying these cars after multiple owners. Who knows how they handle them? Who knows what the maintenance and everything was? And that really can affect your overall ownership. If you're picking up the car, even if you maintain it right, if it still had problems in the past and you don't know about it, it's going to have problems when you own it. A lot of people ask me, should I buy it used or new? And I always recommend them buying new if they were able to, simply because you can start the history yourself. You know exactly every little detail about the car. You know that it's brand new. It has, 7 miles on it. And from here on out, you'll be responsible. You know everything that was done. But all these times when people do buy used Subarus, unfortunately, again, 9 times out of 10, they probably have been modified. 9 times out of 10, they haven't been maintained properly. And 9 times out of 10, which is the second thing I'm actually going to go over, is how the car was modified, what modifications were actually done. Second thing I want to go over as to why people think these things are unreliable is modifications. Yes, I get it. These cars have a huge aftermarket support. Yes, I get it. People want to modify these things right away as soon as they buy them. They're fun. There's a lot of things to do with them. But as we all know, the EJ motor specifically can be a little bit finicky. And what I mean by that is there's many things that you need to do to this car if you're going to modify it. A lot of the modifications that you do, there's a lot of supporting modifications that you need to do with it. There's a ton of other modifications that you should do before you do that modification or this one. And again, there's so many people that just don't do that. They take the easy way out. They just buy the cheaper option and they simply just end up having issues and then they end up blaming the car. It honestly comes down to the owner and how they actually modify it. My specific STI is an example of how I would modify it. If you really wanted to do all the bolt-ons and kind of create it and make it the way that I have, this is honestly the best way I think that you should do it. Doing all the reliability mods, doing all the supporting mods with it. Yes, it is expensive. There is no question about it. You are going to spend a boatload doing this right. But if this is a car that you want to modify, this is the car that you want to own, that is just what you have to do. I'm going to be blunt about it. There's no other ways around it. Yes, I understand there's going to be some success stories saying like, oh, hey, I'm running 700 horsepower and I don't have a tune on the car and it's been totally fine for 10 years. Yeah, there's going to be those stories. There's no question about it. But again, most of the time, people are going to have issues and I don't want people to have the wrong impression of these cars because they just didn't modify them correctly. Now, believe me, there is a lot to learn about this car. There's a lot to learn of the maintenance. There's a lot to learn of the modifications that you should or shouldn't do. And that is what I'm trying to do on this channel and on my videos, is trying to steer people in the right direction. There's so many different ways to go about modifying these cars, and all I'm simply doing is trying to direct people in the right way. Using reputable modifications, doing all the reliability mods, doing all the supporting mods with it. Doing those things will definitely make your ownership much better. Yes, again, it's going to be expensive to do it that way, but honestly, it is the way to do it. This car right in front of me is a perfect example. I have modified this car over the last 5.5 years. I went from completely stock everything all the way to 413 horsepower on coilovers, on Volk wheels, on full exhaust, equal length headers, everything you name it, fuel systems, completely different interior pretty much. I've literally changed pretty much every single nut and bolt on this car to titanium. I've done everything to it. And my philosophy has always been the same no matter what car I have owned, and that is to maintain it properly and actually to do it early. Don't wait, don't procrastinate it, do it early. With these cars, Oil change every 3,000 miles. Spark plugs, do them every 10 to 15,000 miles, especially if you're modified. Doing coolant flushes often, doing every 15, 20,000 miles. Diff flushes, trans flushes, do them every, 25 to 30K. Make sure you're doing that stuff. Don't push it off just saying, oh, I'll do it next year, I'll do it next time. Do it now. It's pretty cheap to maintain these cars. If you have the ability to own a WRX or STI, you can maintain it. It's really not expensive to do that. Doing a full oil change by yourself with Motul 5W40, you're looking at like $70 to do that. To do a spark plug change, those things are like $40. Honestly, it's really not expensive to do this stuff. Yes, it does take some time, but you're going to learn in the process. You're going to learn about your car, and you're going to stay on top of it knowing that it was done right by you. So whether you're a completely stock 2018 Outback all the way to a heavily modified 2017 STI, as long as you do the maintenance, if you want to modify it, make sure you do everything that you need to do it correctly, and I promise you, you're going to have a fantastic ownership. I am living proof for that specific reason. Like I said, I've been driving Subarus for the last decade. I have done everything you possibly can do to them pretty much, and I have had zero problems. And I'm not just saying that for this video. I have had zero issues. Every single time I got in any one of my Subarus, it has started up. Every single time I drove it, it has done it flawlessly. I drove this car 7 hours there and back to Wicked Big Meat not too long ago. No issues whatsoever. Mind you, it was also at 413 horsepower as well. I had all the modifications that you see on the car right now. 7 hours, no problem. And that is simply because I stay on top of the maintenance. That is simply because I do all of the reliability mods. That is simply because I've done all of the supporting mods when I'm doing something to the car. Take the time, save up, and do it right. So as I was editing this video, I realized I never closed it out. I don't know why, I just slipped my mind. I never got a chance to get it done. So we got a couple mods coming in for the STI, so there's going to be some install videos next week, so be on the lookout for that. But if you have any questions at all about the STI or my experience with Subaru, please leave them in the comments below. But in the meantime, keep it clean, keep it simple, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.